I need this job. That's what I keep telling myself as I pull into the empty Megamart parking lot at 10:45 at night. The place looks like a ghost town, just a few scattered cars under those buzzing yellow lights. My Honda makes that grinding noise when I turn off the engine. Been making that sound for 2 months now, ever since I lost my accounting job. Can't afford to fix it, can't afford much of anything. The employee entrance is around back, past the loading dock. I check my phone again. 10:45. Right on time. First impressions matter, and I can't mess this up. Night shift at a big box store wasn't exactly my career plan, but it's what's available. Bills don't care about my pride. A woman's waiting by the door with a clipboard. She's got that manager look, pressed shirt, name tag, the kind of posture that says she's been dealing with retail for years. Kelly Rodriguez, according to the tag. Marcus Thompson? She asks. Yes, ma'am. She nods and swipes a card to open the door. Come on in. We've got some things to cover before your shift starts. The break room smells like old coffee and microwaved food. Fluorescent lights buzz overhead, that familiar retail store hum. Kelly gestures to a plastic chair at a folding table. I sit down and try to look eager, responsible, like someone who shows up on time and follows directions. Before we get started, Kelly says, pulling a laminated sheet from her clipboard, you need to read this. She slides it across the table. It's titled Night Shift Guidelines, in bold letters at the top. I expect the usual stuff. Break schedules, safety procedures, maybe something about restocking protocols. Instead, I get 5 rules that make no sense at all. Rule 1. If the overhead lights flicker once, stand completely still until they stop. Do not move, do not speak. Rule 2. If the overhead lights flicker twice, immediately go to the nearest restroom and wait inside for 10 minutes. Rule 3. If a manager asks you to work consecutive nights, politely decline. Real managers never work back-to-back night shifts. Rule 4. If you hear singing from the back room, join in. Do not investigate the source. Rule 5. If cleaning crew asks for help before 3 a.m., refuse. Our cleaning crew doesn't start until 3 a.m. I read through them twice. Then I look up at Kelly, waiting for her to crack a smile. Maybe laugh and tell me this is some kind of initiation thing they do with new hires. She doesn't. I know how it sounds, she says. Her voice is dead serious. But your survival depends on following these rules exactly. We've had employees quit on their first night, others just disappeared. Previous workers who thought they knew better, who figured the rules were just some corporate nonsense. Kelly leans forward. Marcus, I need you to understand something. These aren't suggestions, they're not guidelines. They're the difference between going home safe and not going home at all. I stare at the laminated sheet. The rules are typed in simple black text, like someone printed them on a regular office printer. Nothing fancy. Nothing that looks like a joke. Is this some kind of training exercise? I ask. Do I look like I'm joking? She doesn't. Kelly Rodriguez looks like someone who's seen things she wishes she hadn't. There's something in her eyes, something tired and careful. I need you to memorize those rules, she says. All 5, word for word. Your life depends on it. The break room feels smaller all of a sudden. The fluorescent lights seem louder. I look down at the rules again, trying to make sense of them. Flickering lights, fake managers, singing from the back room. It sounds like something out of a bad horror movie. But Kelly's not acting like it's a movie. Come on, she says, standing up. Let me show you around. Then I'll introduce you to David. He's been working nights here for 2 years. He'll train you. We walk through the store, past empty aisles and darkened displays. Kelly shows me the basics. Time clock, supply closet, where to find the cleaning equipment, normal stuff, the kind of tour I expected. But the whole time, I'm thinking about those rules, about the way Kelly's eyes kept darting around when she talked, We find David parked near the electronics section, restocking phone chargers. He's young, maybe mid-20s, with the kind of careful movements that suggest he's always listening for something. "David," Kelly says. "This is Marcus, new night shift." David looks up and nods. "Hey." "Marcus is going to shadow you tonight, show him the ropes." "Sure thing." Kelly heads back toward the offices, leaving us alone. David continues stocking chargers, not saying much. The store feels huge and empty around us, just the two of us and all this retail space. "So," I say, trying to break the silence, "Kelly gave me this list of rules. Pretty strange stuff." David stops what he's doing. His face goes pale, like someone just walked over his grave. "You read the rules?" he whispers. "Yeah, about the lights flickering and the fake managers and—" "Don't." David glances around the store, then steps closer. His voice drops even lower. "Don't talk about them out loud. Just follow them exactly. Every single one. But they don't make any sense." David looks at me like I just said something incredibly stupid. "Marcus, I've been working here for 2 years. I've seen what happens to people who don't follow the rules." The way he says it makes something cold settle in my stomach. This isn't a prank. This isn't some weird corporate team-building thing. "What happens?" I ask. David just shakes his head and goes back to stocking chargers. His hands are trembling slightly. The first few hours pass without anything weird happening. David shows me how to work the inventory scanner where they keep the extra stock. Basic stuff like that. He's still nervous, keeps looking around like he's expecting something, but he's patient with the training. I'm getting the hang of it. Scan the barcode, check the count, move boxes around. Not exactly rocket science, but there's a system to it. David knows every aisle, every product code. Guy's been doing this long enough. Around 1:30 in the morning, I'm in aisle 7 working on cereal boxes. Lucky Charms, Cheerios, the usual stuff. David's 2 aisles over doing something with pasta sauce. The store's quiet except for the hum of the freezers and our footsteps. Then the lights flicker. Once. I freeze. Don't even think about it, just stop moving completely. The cereal box in my hands might as well be welded there. My feet are planted on the linoleum like they grew roots. The rules. First rule. If lights flicker once, stand still until they stop. The flickering lasts maybe 30 seconds. Feels longer when you're standing there like a statue, but I count it out in my head. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. When the lights finally stabilize, I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. David appears at the end of the aisle. He nods at me, doesn't say anything, just nods, like I passed some kind of test. We go back to work. I try to focus on the cereal, but my hands are a little shaky now. This is real. Whatever this is, it's real. 20 minutes later, it happens again. 2 flickers, fast, one right after the other. I drop the cereal box. Don't even think about it, just let it fall and run. Cornflakes hit the floor and the box splits open, but I'm already moving. Nearest restroom, that's what Kelly said. Nearest restroom for 10 minutes. The restroom's at the front of the store, past the registers. I sprint down the main aisle, sneakers squeaking on the floor, push through the door and slam it behind me, lock myself in the first stall I see. It's cramped in here. Smells like industrial cleaner and that fake pine scent they use in public bathrooms. I press my back against the stall door and try to catch my breath. That's when I hear the footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, but the rhythm's all wrong. Like someone walking who's forgotten how walking is supposed to work. Step, pause, step, step, pause. Moving through the store, up and down the aisles. Then there's another sound. Scraping. Metal on linoleum, like someone's dragging a crowbar behind them. The sound makes my teeth hurt. I hold my breath. The footsteps get closer, moving toward the front of the store, toward the restroom. I can hear them in the main aisle now, that weird broken rhythm getting louder. They stop right outside the door. I'm pressed so hard against the stall door I can feel the metal hinges digging into my back. My heart's hammering, but I don't move, don't breathe, don't make a sound. The footsteps start again, move past the restroom, continue down the aisle. That scraping sound fades with them. I stay in the stall, count the minutes on my watch. 5, 7, 10. When I finally hear David's voice calling out that it's safe, I'm soaked in sweat. "Marcus, you can come out now." I unlock the stall door on shaking legs. David's standing by the sinks, looking concerned but not surprised. He doesn't ask what I heard, doesn't ask if I'm okay. He just nods and says, "You followed the rule correctly." 3 nights later, I'm working alone in the electronics section when this middle-aged guy in a rumpled jacket walks up to me. It's 11:45, according to the clock on the wall. "Excuse me," he says, real polite. "I'm Robert Chen. Could you help me pick out a television? It's for my daughter's birthday." Something cold drops into my stomach. Rule 2. The one about customers after 11 not being real. But this guy looks so normal, you know? Tired eyes, jacket that's seen better days, the kind of worn-down look every parent gets when they're shopping for their kids. I hesitate. He's just standing there waiting, patient as anything. "Sure," I hear myself say. "What kind of TV you looking for?" See, that's the thing. 3 nights of following David around, watching him jump at every shadow, and I'm starting to think maybe these rules are just paranoid nonsense. Maybe Kelly and David have been working nights so long they've spooked themselves into seeing things that aren't there. This Robert Chen guy seems real enough. I lead him over to the television display. Rows of screens showing the same cooking show, some woman making what looks like lasagna. The sound's turned down, but you can see her mouth moving, hands gesturing at the pasta. "So, what's your budget looking like?" I ask, stopping in front of the 43-inch models. "Oh, I'm not too worried about that," Robert says. "I just want something nice for her. She's been asking for one for her room." I start explaining the differences. This one's got better color. That one's got more inputs for gaming systems. Basic sales stuff I picked up from watching David train the day shift guys. But while I'm talking, something catches my eye. I'm looking at the screens, pointing out the picture quality, when I notice something wrong. Robert's standing right next to me, right in front of these TVs. But his reflection isn't showing up in any of the screens. I can see myself just fine, pointing at the display. But where Robert should be, there's just empty space. "This model here has the best picture," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "Really good for movies." "That sounds perfect," Robert says, but his voice sounds different now, like it's coming from underwater or through a bad phone connection. I turn to look at him directly, and that's when I see it. His face is shifting, blurring. Like someone's trying to tune in a TV station but can't quite get the signal right. His features keep sliding around, nose moving where his mouth should be, eyes not quite staying in the same place. "I think she'll really like that one," he says, and his voice is getting more distorted with each word. Then he's gone. Just vanishes. Like someone switched off a light. There's a blast of cold air that hits me so hard I stumble backward, and then I hear this sharp crack. The 55-inch display model has spiderweb fractures running across the whole screen. Nobody touched it. Nobody even got close to it. But it's broken, glass spiderwebbed from edge to edge. I back away from the broken television, and I can feel my heart hammering against my ribs. The cooking show's still playing on all the other screens. That woman still making her lasagna like nothing happened. The rules aren't jokes. They're not paranoid nonsense. They're warnings about real things that walk around this store after hours. The following week went by fast. 2 nights in a row, I worked with manager Patricia Williams watching over the store. She seemed normal enough, checked in on me and David, did her paperwork, stayed in her office most of the time. Professional. Nothing strange about her. But when she showed up for the 3rd night, Something cold settled in my stomach. I was restocking batteries in aisle 12 when I saw her walk through the front entrance. Same blonde hair, same business clothes, same manager badge. But Rule 3 came back to me like a slap. Real managers don't work consecutive night shifts. And she'd been here 2 nights running. 3 nights now. I kept working, acting normal, but my hands were shaking as I lined up the AA batteries. Patricia walked past my aisle, nodded at me like always, and headed for her office in the back. I heard the door close. I waited 10 minutes. Then I walked to the break room and picked up the phone. The number for James Martinez was taped to the wall next to the schedule. I dialed it, hoping I was wrong, hoping I was being paranoid. He answered on the first ring. "James, it's Marcus from the store. I need to hide right now." His voice was barely a whisper, but urgent. "Don't let her see you. I'm on my way." The line went dead. I dropped the phone and ran. The storage area was in the back, past the employee restroom. Tall metal shelving units lined the walls, stacked with boxes and pallets of merchandise. I found a spot behind a tower of paper towel cases and crouched down, trying to control my breathing. That's when I heard the office door open. "Marcus." Patricia's voice carried through the store, but it sounded wrong, like it was coming from inside a tunnel. "Marcus, where are you?" Footsteps in the main aisle, but not normal footsteps. Too slow, too deliberate. Step, pause, step, step, pause. "I need to speak with you, Marcus." Her voice was louder now, echoing off the walls in a way that didn't make sense. The store wasn't that big. Sound didn't bounce around like that. I pressed myself against the paper towel boxes and tried not to move. Through a gap between the pallets, I could see part of aisle 14. Patricia walked into view and my stomach dropped. She was moving all wrong. Her arms swung too far with each step, like a puppet with loose strings. Her head turned side to side in sharp, jerky motions, scanning the shelves. "Marcus!" She drew out my name, making it last too long. "Marcus, Marcus, Marcus!" She disappeared from my view, but I could hear her moving through the store, aisle by aisle, getting closer to the storage area. "I know you're here, Marcus. We need to talk." The voice was coming from everywhere now, from the ceiling, from the walls, from inside my own head. I closed my eyes and counted my breathing. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Something David had taught me during my first week. The footsteps stopped. Everything went quiet. I opened my eyes and saw her standing at the end of the storage aisle, maybe 20 feet away. She wasn't looking at me yet, but she was turning her head back and forth like she was sniffing the air. "Marcus." Her voice was right next to my ear, even though she was 20 feet away. Then I heard the front door slam open, and James Martinez's voice cut through the store. "Hey, Patricia." The thing that looked like Patricia snapped its head toward the sound. It moved like a bird, too fast and too sharp. "James," it said, and its voice was normal again. Professional. "I wasn't expecting you tonight." "Emergency inventory check," James called back. "Corporate wants numbers first thing in the morning." I heard them talking, their voices getting farther away as they moved toward the front of the store. Normal conversation, work stuff. But I stayed hidden behind the pallets until I heard the front door open and close again. Silence. Then James's voice, quiet but clear. "Marcus, it's safe now." I crawled out from behind the paper towels. My knees were stiff and my shirt was soaked with sweat. James was standing in the main aisle, looking tired. Normal tired, not supernatural tired. "Where'd she go?" I asked. "Gone. They don't stick around once they know someone's watching." "They?" James shook his head. "Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. You did good calling me. You followed the rule." I thought about what would have happened if I hadn't. If I just kept working, kept pretending Patricia was normal. If I'd let her corner me in some empty aisle with no witnesses. What would it have done to me? Nothing good. James pulled out his keys. "I'm staying for the rest of your shift. Just in case." I nodded. My hands had stopped shaking, but I could still hear that voice echoing in my head. Marcus, Marcus, Marcus. The rules weren't suggestions. They weren't paranoid nonsense from some scared night worker. They were the only thing keeping me alive in this place. 2 weeks into working at Megamart, I was getting used to the rhythm of night shifts. The rules had saved me more times than I wanted to count, and I'd stopped questioning whether any of this made sense. It didn't matter if it made sense. It worked. I was restocking soup cans in aisle 3 when I heard it. Singing. Faint at first, like someone humming in another room, but it was coming from the back room, that storage area behind the swinging doors where we kept the extra inventory. The voice was thin and hollow, echoing strangely through the empty store. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. My hands froze on a can of chicken noodle soup. Rule 4. If you hear singing from the back room, join in, but don't investigate. The voice continued, each word drifting through the air like it was coming from underwater. How I wonder what you are. I set the can down carefully and cleared my throat. My voice came out shaky and weak, but I started singing along. Up above the world so high. The moment my voice joined in, the singing stopped. Complete silence. Not the normal quiet of an empty store. This was different. Heavy. Like the air itself was holding its breath. I stood there in aisle 3, surrounded by soup cans, feeling like something invisible was watching me from every direction. I waited, counted to 30. Nothing. My hands were trembling when I picked up the soup can again. I never found out what would have happened if I'd ignored the singing, but I was grateful for Kelly's warning. Whatever had been back there, it was gone now. The rest of that shift passed without incident. A week later, I was getting comfortable, maybe too comfortable. It was 2:30 in the morning, and I was reorganizing the pharmacy section when someone approached from behind. "Excuse me." I turned around. A guy in a janitor's uniform stood there with a friendly smile. He was about my height, maybe a little taller, with short black hair and dark eyes. His uniform was clean, and he had a cart full of cleaning supplies behind him. "I'm Michael Torres," he said. "I could really use some help moving some heavy equipment in the back. Would you mind giving me a hand?" I almost said yes automatically. He seemed normal enough, polite, professional, the kind of request you'd get from any co-worker. Then I remembered Rule 5. The cleaning crew doesn't start until 3 in the morning. It was only 2:30. "Sorry," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I've got other duties to complete right now." Michael's expression didn't change for a second. Then his mouth started stretching. Wide. Wider than any human mouth should go. His grin spread across his face like someone was pulling the corners with invisible hooks. His features shifted and stretched, the smile becoming something that belonged in a nightmare, not on a person's face. He stared at me like that for what felt like forever, just standing there with that impossible grin, his eyes locked on mine. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Then he turned and walked away, his cart squeaking as he disappeared around the corner toward the back of the store. I stood there in the pharmacy section, my heart hammering against my ribs, grateful to be alive and grateful for the rules that kept me that way. I stood there in the storage room, watching my breath come out in white puffs. The cold hit so fast it felt like someone had opened a freezer door the size of the whole building. The lights kept going. Flicker, 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 flicker. Not the single flash that meant stand still. Not the double that meant run to the bathroom. Just this crazy strobing that made everything look like a broken movie. I'd been working here 6 weeks now. 6 weeks of following Kelly's rules and staying alive because of them. But this wasn't in the manual. The shadows started moving first. I thought maybe it was just the lights messing with my eyes, but no. These things were crawling along the walls like they had their own ideas about where to go. Long black shapes that stretched and twisted, reaching toward the ceiling and then pooling on the floor like spilled ink. Marcus. The voice came from behind me. I spun around but saw nothing except boxes of paper towels stacked to the ceiling. Marcus. This time from my left, still nothing there. Marcus. From above, from the walls, from inside my own head. My name bounced around the storage room like it was trapped in here with me. Each whisper a little louder than the last, a little more urgent, like whatever was saying it was getting impatient. I pressed my back against the metal shelving and tried to think. The rules had saved me from the fake customer with no reflection, from the thing that looked like Patricia but moved wrong, from the janitor who showed up too early with that impossible grin. But the rules didn't say anything about this. The temperature kept dropping. I could feel it through my jeans and work shirt seeping into my bones, the kind of cold that made your teeth ache. Marcus, Marcus, Marcus. Now it was coming from everywhere at once. A chorus of voices, some high, some low, some that didn't sound human at all. They overlapped and echoed until my name became this twisted song that filled every corner of the room. The shadows were getting bolder. They crept across the floor toward my feet, reaching like fingers. I pulled my legs up and crouched on a low pallet, but they kept coming. This was different from the other times. Those things had rules too, boundaries they couldn't cross if I did what I was supposed to. But this felt like something testing the system, probing for weak spots. The lights flickered faster. The voices got louder. The shadows climbed the walls and started moving across the ceiling above me. I didn't know if I should run or hide or stay perfectly still. Every choice felt wrong. Every choice felt like it might be the last one I'd ever make. I stayed crouched on that pallet, not moving a muscle. The voices kept coming at me from every direction, getting louder and more insistent. My name bounced off the walls like it was being thrown around by invisible hands. Marcus, Marcus, Marcus. Over and over. High voices, low voices, voices that didn't sound human at all. The cold bit through my jacket and made my bones ache. I could see my breath coming out in short puffs. The shadows on the walls started doing something new. Instead of just creeping along like spilled paint, they began pulling themselves into shapes. Almost like people, but wrong. Too tall, arms too long, moving in ways that made my eyes hurt to follow. They stretched and twisted, reaching toward me with what looked like fingers made of darkness. I pressed myself back against the metal shelving and tried to think. Every other time, the rules had worked. Stand still when the lights flicker once. Hide in the bathroom when they flicker twice. Don't trust the fake managers or customers or janitors. Join the singing, but don't investigate. But this wasn't in the manual. This was something else entirely. The shadow things kept reaching for me, and I could feel something building in the air, like the moment before lightning strikes. Whatever was doing this, it was mad, really mad. I'd been following the rules for 6 weeks now, surviving every test they threw at me, and that was pissing them off. Then everything stopped. The voices cut off mid-word. The shadows froze in place. Even the flickering lights went still, leaving just the normal fluorescent hum I'd gotten used to. The silence was worse than the noise. It felt heavy, like something pressing down on my chest. I could hear my own breathing and the blood rushing in my ears, but nothing else, not even the usual store sounds. That's when I heard the footsteps, not the heavy, dragging ones from my first night. These were light and quick, like someone walking fast but trying to be quiet about it. But there was something off about the rhythm. Too perfect. Too synchronized. Like multiple people walking in exactly the same pattern at exactly the same time. Step, 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 step. They were coming from the front of the store, moving toward the storage room. I could track them through the aisles, getting closer with each synchronized beat. The footsteps stopped right outside the storage room door. I couldn't see anything from where I was crouched, but I could feel it. Something standing there, just past the doorway, watching me, waiting. My phone buzzed. The sound made me jump so hard I almost fell off the pallet. I grabbed it with shaking hands and looked at the screen. Unknown number. Text message. The rules can't protect you forever. I stared at the words until they blurred. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the phone. These things, whatever they were, they'd been watching me, learning, figuring out how the rules worked and where the gaps were. They knew my phone number. They knew my name. They knew I'd been surviving by following Kelly's instructions, and they were done playing games. The lights flickered once, then went back to normal. Steady fluorescent brightness, just like any other night. But something had changed. I could feel it in the air, in the way the shadows looked different now, even though they weren't moving anymore. This wasn't just another test. This wasn't them checking to see if I'd follow the rules. They were getting ready for something bigger, something the rules weren't designed to handle. I tried to get back to normal after that. Picked up my scanner, headed to aisle 5 where the breakfast cereals needed counting. Just do the job, I told myself. Follow the routine. Maybe if I acted like nothing happened, everything would settle back down. But I could feel it in the air. Something had shifted. The shadows looked wrong even when they weren't moving. The fluorescent lights hummed at a different pitch, and every few minutes I'd catch movement in my peripheral vision that wasn't there when I turned to look. I was scanning a box of Frosted Flakes when the lights started up again. Not the single flicker or double flash I knew how to handle. The same chaotic strobing from before, fast and irregular, like someone was flipping the switch just to mess with me. Then I heard footsteps, multiple sets coming from different directions. A man's voice called out from the electronics section. "Excuse me, could someone help me pick out a television?" My blood went cold. I knew that voice. Robert Chen, the fake customer with no reflection who'd vanished into thin air 3 weeks ago. From the front of the store came another voice. Marcus, could you come to my office, please?" Patricia Williams. But James had told me the real Patricia was on vacation this week. I dropped the cereal box and started moving toward the restrooms. The lights were flickering, so that meant bathroom protocol. But as I rounded the corner into the main aisle, there were people standing in my way. 3 of them. A middle-aged woman examining shampoo bottles, an elderly man pushing an empty cart, and a teenager looking at magazines. All of them turned to stare at me as I approached. Their eyes reflected the flickering lights like mirrors. "Excuse me," the woman said, stepping directly into my path. "Do you work here? I need help finding something." I backed up, heart hammering. The restroom was 20 feet away, but they were blocking the route, and more footsteps were coming from behind me. I pulled out my phone to call James, hit his number, pressed the phone to my ear. Nothing. No dial tone, no ringing. The screen showed full bars, but the call wouldn't connect. That's when the singing started. Not the thin, hollow voice I'd heard before. This was dozens of voices, maybe hundreds, all coming from the back room at once. Men, women, children, all singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" in perfect harmony. But underneath the melody, they were saying my name. "Marcus, join us, Marcus, come and sing with us, Marcus." The fake customers in front of me smiled. Their grins stretched too wide, just like the janitors had. "Marcus?" Patricia's voice again, closer now. I turned and saw her walking down the main aisle toward me. Same blonde hair, same business clothes, but her movements were all wrong, like a marionette with tangled strings. And behind her came 3 men in janitor uniforms pushing carts full of cleaning supplies. They moved in perfect synchronization, their footsteps matching the rhythm of the singing. "We need your help, Marcus," one of them called out. "Heavy lifting in the back room. Won't take long." I was surrounded. Fake customers blocking the restroom, fake Patricia coming from the front, fake janitors from the back. The singing voices getting louder, more insistent, and the lights strobing faster, making everything look like a broken movie. This wasn't random anymore. They weren't testing me. They'd planned this. I turned toward the emergency exit at the back of the store. It was my only option. But as I started running, the fake Patricia moved faster than any human could, appearing directly in my path. Her hand shot out and grabbed my arm. Her fingers were ice cold, so cold they burned through my shirt sleeve. The cold spread up my arm toward my chest, and I felt my strength starting to drain away. "Come with me, Marcus," she said, her voice echoing from the walls and ceiling. "You don't need to follow the rules anymore." Robert Chen materialized in front of the emergency exit, blocking my escape. His face was shifting and blurring like a bad TV signal, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. "Going somewhere?" he asked, his voice distorted and watery. The fake customers closed in from one side, the janitors from the other. Patricia's grip tightened on my arm and the cold spread faster. My vision started to blur at the edges. The singing voices were inside my head now, drowning out my thoughts. I tried to pull away, but my legs wouldn't work right. Everything felt heavy, like I was moving through thick water. The cold was reaching my chest, making it hard to breathe. This was it. The rules couldn't help me. There was nowhere to run. The employee entrance slammed open with a bang that echoed through the whole store. "Get away from him!" Kelly Rodriguez stood in the doorway, holding something in her hands that looked like a wooden cross covered in symbols I didn't recognize. James Martinez was right behind her carrying a small bag, and David Park brought up the rear with what looked like a bundle of dried herbs. Kelly started speaking in a language I'd never heard before. The words came fast and sharp, like she was giving orders to invisible soldiers. James opened his bag and pulled out a handful of white powder, throwing it in a circle around me. David lit the herbs with a lighter, and thick smoke filled the air. The fake Patricia shrieked and let go of my arm. The sound wasn't human. It was like metal scraping against metal, like feedback from a broken speaker. Robert Chen's face twisted into something that hurt to look at, and the fake customers and janitors started backing away. Kelly kept chanting, her voice getting louder and more forceful. The symbols on her cross began to glow with a pale blue light. James threw more powder, and wherever it landed, the fake people started dissolving like sugar in water. The singing voices turned into screams, high, piercing wails that seemed to come from everywhere at once. The lights stopped flickering and went completely dark for a moment, then blazed back to life at full brightness. When my vision cleared, they were all gone. The fake customers, fake Patricia, fake janitors, Robert Chen, all of them. The only people left in the store were me, Kelly, James, and David. The cold was gone too. My arm felt normal again, and I could breathe without effort, but I was shaking so hard I could barely stand. Kelly lowered her cross and looked at me with tired eyes. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded, though I wasn't sure it was true. "Good," she said, "because we need to talk." Kelly helped me to the break room, James on my other side. My legs still felt like rubber, and I had to lean on both of them to make it to one of those plastic chairs. David followed behind us, still holding the bundle of smoking herbs. Kelly set her cross down on the folding table and pulled up a chair across from me. James sat to my left, and David took the chair by the door. Nobody said anything for a minute. I could hear the fluorescent lights humming overhead, normal and steady now. "You want some water?" James asked. I nodded. He got up and filled a paper cup from the cooler in the corner. My hands were still shaking when I took it, but the water helped. Kelly leaned forward, her hands folded on the table. "You deserve to know what just happened to you." "I'd like that," I said. My voice came out hoarse. She took a breath. This store was built on an ancient burial ground. We found that out about 5 years ago when the night shift problems started getting bad. Real bad. What kind of problems? Employees disappearing, James said. 3 in the first month. Just gone. No trace, no explanation. Security cameras showed them working 1 minute, empty store the next. David spoke up from his chair by the door. That's when corporate brought in investigators, psychics, historians, people who deal with this kind of thing. Kelly nodded. They confirmed it. Sacred burial ground, disturbed by construction. The dead don't rest easy here, especially after dark. I set down my water cup. So the rules, developed over years of trial and error, Kelly said. Every rule cost us somebody. The light flickers, the fake customers, the early janitors. We learned what worked by watching people die. The room went quiet. I thought about all those nights, following the rules without really understanding how close I'd come. You lasted longer than most, James said. 6 weeks, that's almost a record. Most people break after 2 weeks, David added. Either they stop following the rules or they just stop showing up. Kelly leaned back in her chair. The entities, they test the boundaries. They probe for weaknesses, but when they find someone who consistently survives by following the rules, someone who proves they can't be broken easily, they get desperate, James finished. They try a coordinated attack, all of them at once trying to overwhelm the protections. I looked at David. You were watching me. He nodded, not meeting my eyes. Kelly and James asked me to. Report back on how you were handling things, if you were following the rules correctly. We're part of a group, Kelly explained. Employees who've survived long enough to understand what we're dealing with. We try to protect the new people, help them last as long as possible. But tonight was different, I said. Tonight they threw everything they had at you, James said. That means they're running out of time. Time for what? Kelly picked up her cross, turned it over in her hands. The longer someone survives here, the less hold they have over them. After about 2 months, the rules become so ingrained, so much a part of you, that the entities can't touch you anymore. You were almost there, David said. Another 2 weeks, maybe 3, and you would have been safe. That's why they attacked tonight, Kelly said. Last chance to claim you before you escaped their influence completely. I stared at the table. So what happens now? Kelly set the cross down and looked at me directly. I'm offering you a transfer to the day shift. Promotion to assistant manager, $3 raise. I blinked. Day shift. You've proven you can handle the supernatural challenges, she said. But you shouldn't have to keep risking your life. Day shift is normal. Regular customers, regular problems, no entities. You'd do that? You've earned it, James said. Not many people last 6 weeks. Even fewer survive a coordinated attack. I thought about it for maybe 10 seconds. Yes, absolutely yes. Kelly smiled for the first time since I'd met her. Good. I'll process the paperwork tomorrow. You start Monday morning, 8 a.m. I stood up, my legs finally steady. Thank you. All of you. Don't thank us yet, David said. You still need to get out of here. I walked to my locker and gathered my things. Not much, my jacket, my car keys, the laminated rule sheet Kelly had given me that first night. I looked at it one more time, then left it in the locker. The 4 of us walked to the employee entrance together. Kelly unlocked the door and held it open. You sure you're okay to drive? She asked. I'm fine. I stepped outside into the cool night air. The parking lot was empty except for our cars and the distant hum of traffic on the highway. I turned back to look at the store one more time. The windows were dark. Just a regular building, nothing special about it. But I knew what was in there, waiting for the next person desperate enough to take a night shift job. Marcus, Kelly called. I looked back. You survived something that killed or drove away dozens of people, she said. Don't forget that. I nodded and walked to my Honda. The engine turned over on the second try, that familiar grinding sound almost comforting now. I pulled out of the parking lot and onto the empty road. The sky was starting to lighten in the east, pink and orange creeping up from the horizon. I'd never been so happy to see sunrise. I drove home through streets that were starting to wake up. Early commuters, delivery trucks, the normal world going about its business. A world where the worst thing you had to worry about was traffic or being late for work. I pulled into my apartment complex as the sun cleared the horizon. Full daylight, warm and real and safe. I sat in my car for a minute, engine off, listening to the grinding sound as it cooled down. I'd survived something that would change my understanding of reality forever.